Hello everyone. So today we are going to see what are VPC endpoints and where they can be used. So whenever you try to access any AWS service, so say in this case S3 bucket from your EC2 machine. So the traffic flows via the public internet and also you have to attach one internet gateway to VPC so that you can access that particular AWS service. And when things come to the private EC2 machine, you also have to provision one net gateway in addition to the internet gateway to access that AWS service. And also you have to make the necessary root table entries. So S3 is such one service. AWS offers many other services like API gateway, SQS, Kinesis data firehose, etc., which you can access with the help of the VPC endpoints. So endpoints allows you to connect to AWS service using a private network instead of the public one. So you don't have to provision any internet gateway or net gateway to access AWS service when you use the VPC endpoint. These devices are horizontally scaled, highly available and redundant. So when we talk about the types of the VPC endpoint, so currently there are two types. First one is gateway endpoint. So when you provision a gateway endpoint, it automatically creates a root table entry in the respective subnet, and with the help of gateway endpoint, you can access only S3 and DynamoDB service in AWS. And the second type is interface endpoints. Where it provisions elastic network interface, that means ENI, in your respective subnet and attach one private IP to it. And with the help of interface endpoint, you can access most of the AWS services. In fact, recently AWS has launched interface endpoint service for the S3 bucket. And in the future, most likely gateway endpoint service will go away and only remaining endpoint service will be the interface endpoint. So we have already talked about supported services. Gateway endpoint supports only DynamoDB and S3. And for all other services, you can use the interface endpoint. And when you talk about the cost, gateway endpoint is free of cost. And for the interface endpoint, you will be charged $0.01 per hour for per availability zone. And when you talk about the bandwidth throughput limit, so there is no limit for the gateway endpoint, but in case of interface endpoint, it offers 10 Gbps per ENI. So we have already seen when you provision a gateway endpoint, you can access S3 and DynamoDB service over the private link, and it automatically creates a root table entry in that particular subnet. And when you provision an interface endpoint, it creates a elastic network interface in that particular subnet, and you can access most of the AWS services using interface endpoint. So this is the end of the overview of VPC endpoint. In the future lecture in this series, we are going to see the hands-on lab on gateway endpoint, the interface endpoint, and also we will be seeing many associated scenarios with both the endpoints. In addition to that, we will also see what is the private link and how we can access any consumer service or any third-party service using VPC endpoint. And I hope you are going to like this series. So please do provide your feedback, and thank you for watching and have a nice day ahead. Thank you.